ethics as it relates to studies that bear on human beings. Therefore, to begin, the major objective is to consider some of the philosophical and practical concerns that really serve to undergird ethics. So a brief exercise in the circumstances that led to ethics. From both a pedagogical and pragmatic perspective, what we're concerned with is trying to garner some understanding of the history that led to historical developments, that led to the elaboration of codes and regulations. More specifically, respect for persons. What does that mean in terms of formalism, consent, justice, etc.? There are other aspects of ethics that bear on research beyond what I'm going to speak about. Certainly scientific fraud and misconduct, leaving aside whether the work is ethically appropriate. There still can be misconduct and fraud. Since the society, my characterization, has decided to institutionalize health disparities as opposed to solving them, there's a whole set of ethical issues. All of that history has combined to yield a report by the federal government. The United States Congress established the National Commission on the Protection of Human Subjects in Biomedical and Behavioral Research in 1979. The intent, therefore, is to make sure that we had a baseline standard against which to conduct research. If you look at the bottom of the page of the visual, the first component of that is respect for the person. If there's respect for the person, then there should be voluntary, informed consent. If it's not possible, there should be proxy. The latter part, in practice, really doesn't obtain. The second point is that if you're doing the research, what's the balance between the risk that someone is subjected to and the benefit to the larger society? Clearly, the Willowbrook example that I gave with respect to hepatitis defied this. So what one has to do is design an investigation to minimize risk against a very, very large return in terms of benefit. Now, that is a very, very challenging issue because, repeat myself, there's no such thing as a risk-free investigation. There's always risk. And the question is how, in fact, to manage it. Clinical trials. There's a principle that actually goes to clinical trials. In fact, there are a variety of conditions to ensure that they are ethically appropriate. Voluntary consent has been obtained. There's a favorable benefit-risk ratio. Item 3 is rarely obtained. There's equitable selection of subjects. So it eliminates exploitation, either in the positive or the negative, meaning oversampling for a population or undersampling for a population, such that one gets a skewed result. It should be across the entire population by all of the petitions we engage in. The privacy of the subjects must be protected in the IRBs. Institutional review boards must in fact ensure that there's adherence to all of these principles. There's a huge issue with respect to, in practical terms, with respect to clinical trials. One, there is something that I shall awkwardly, even though I'm doing it reluctantly, call the economic disadvantage of clinical trials. If I am a biomedical researcher